I'm Kerry Peters, a recognized thought leader in the Microsoft Dynamics community and a Microsoft MVP for business applications. Welcome to the Get Your New View podcast. Keep listening to learn how we work with frustrated Business Central and NAV users who struggle to use their system and find the answers that they need. We teach them to truly understand how the system can support their business processes to make immediate and lasting improvements. As a result, they get more done in less time, make better business decisions, and even love their system. Welcome to our next episode of the Get Your New View podcast. I'm Kerry Peters, and I brought with me today a special guest, Cynthia Priebe, who's one of our senior consultants and trainers. And Cynthia has come here today to talk with us about the phase 2 project of putting security and permissions into place. Cynthia, I want to go right to the nugget on this one. Why do companies put this off until phase 2? What's the reason?
Because I wasn't there going like this, to make them do it in phase 1. Because it is in its own right a significant project. There is no getting around it. And when you're looking at go live and you're strapped for resources because you still have to run your company, you still have to use your legacy system, it has a tendency to be the thing that's put off unless you're a publicly held company that is forced to do it because of SOX. Sarbanes-Oxley. Yep.
Yeah. And unfortunately, I think we often see that companies go live and everybody's a super user at the beginning. And that scares the heck out of me, knowing that somebody would have access to everything in my system, including all the areas where setup are. And if you're one of those companies who has everybody as super user, you're not alone. It's common, but unfortunately, it is a terrible practice in our industry that I'd love to see change. So we know that a lot of people do put this off until phase 2. How hard is it? I know it is an involved process. How hard is it to put this into a phase 2 project?
So it's hard whether it's phase 2 or phase 1.
Yeah.
Okay. Regardless. And it really doesn't change whether it's phase 2 or phase 1. It is a matter of, it's the entire enterprise needs to be involved. It is not the responsibility of the IT manager. It is not the responsibility of the controller or someone higher up, depending on the size of your organization and finance. It ends up becoming the responsibility of your CPA firm and your auditors or whoever it is that's pushing you to get it done and giving you deadlines, but they're still not responsible for it. So it's the fact that it does include someone from all of the departments, and it really needs to be a top-down effort. I'm not trying to scare anybody on this, but if you're going into it thinking that you're going to spend a couple of hours and you're going to have your permissions all set up, that's not true. But if you take the look at it and you say, all right, I'm going to get the people in accounts payable and accounts receivable in each one of these areas involved, you give them little tidbits of work, you make those bites that they have to take out of the project small enough, you get them involved and it creates ownership. Then when some of the pains that come along as you're working through the permissions and you run into problems that someone doesn't have permission to do something that they want to do, because they have ownership in it, it changes the whole complexion of things. So you can see that what you do in the front, in the beginning, and how you get people involved, make the workload reasonable and have everyone take little bites out of this big project. It's manageable.
Yeah.
And it happens.
Yeah. So is there something that companies don't know about this feature or some benefit of this feature that you'd like to emphasize, as to why they should put this into place?
Well, so it's not a single feature, and I know you know that. There's a lot of different components to it, but we have things like permissions and permission sets. And there have been recent changes to those as we sit here today recording this. Of course, it doesn't end up out in that great world overnight, but there were some big changes made in the last few months to permission sets and how we do things. We're deprecating user groups. And I'm hoping Microsoft is going to give us some sort of transition path for that, for anyone who's using them. But I think it's that concept of how do you decide what permission sets get assigned to what users and or groups of users. And again, if you look at it, we actually have an approach we use. We have a matrix that we created that's a tool that allows an organization to look through and look at everything task by task, again, taking it into small pieces. But when you use that tool, that equates directly over to these permission sets. So to me, this permission set and how you structure it is the crux of how permissions work in Business Central. The other part of permissions and security is how you monitor sensitive data. And things like vendor bank accounts, you have to give somebody access to those, because who's going to set up the vendor bank account when you start doing ACH or do ACH for that customer because that's your process? Well, if you're giving them access to it, how do you still secure that data? How are you aware when that's being changed? Because that could be a major indicator of potential fraud. So there's these different components that need to be set up, and there's ownership of those components. But I think it's the permission sets and then that monitoring of that secure data. Those are the two features or functions that to me are the heart of securing your system.
Yep, absolutely. Do you have phase 2 projects that have been on your to-do list for way too long? Did your team ever really get good training to understand how to use your business software? Do you think you could use more features of your software if you just knew how? Are you frustrated with inefficiency that never seems to get better? Do you suspect that there just has to be a better way, but you don't know what that is? We believe every company can benefit from increased efficiency and higher utilization of their software, and that it's possible to have fun while learning exactly how to do that. The experts at NewView Strategies work with frustrated Business Central and NAV users who struggle to use their system and find the answers they need. We teach them to truly understand how the system can support their business processes to make immediate and lasting improvements. As a result, they get more done in less time, make better business decisions, and even love their system. Please contact us at getyournewview.com to get started. So, do you have a favorite customer story about somebody who put permissions into place recently?
Can I share a least favorite customer story?
You absolutely can share a least favorite customer story.
So, one of the challenges with permissions is that we work a lot with the SMB, the small to medium-sized business. And in that kind of business, people wear a lot of different hats. And everybody ends up being like family, right? You have company picnics, so maybe not so much now because we're all working from home still, whatever it is. But it's a family organization, and who would possibly in our family do anything to hurt us? I was actually involved. I was brought in forensically because a woman who was known as mom to everybody, she literally brought in cookies every Friday. She coordinated all the company events. It turned out she fraudulently acquired about $180,000 over 18 months, about $10,000 a month. Large enough organization that $10,000 a month, interestingly enough, was not quickly missed until we had a downturn in their business and cash flow started tightening up. And all of a sudden, it was like, we should have a lot more cash in here than is in here. And basically what happened is she was changing vendor account numbers and paying herself instead of the vendors. She was the one who fielded the calls from the vendors, so she was staving them up. Now, not real bright, because I'm thinking it's going to catch up to you eventually, and it did. But it was mom to everybody. And she wore all kinds of hats. And because she wore all kinds of hats, she could hide it. So that's my least favorite story. And I will tell you what, I think I don't think she was a bad person. She ended up being in a bad situation. I don't know all the details because I was brought in as an outside advisor and people weren't talking about it. My understanding is she had a husband with a health issue and it was a medical problem that caused her to need money. This was not a bad person. All right. So the lesson here is that good people can do bad things if they're given the opportunity. Don't give your users the opportunity. I share that story because, again, it's not a success story, but we have success stories. We have organizations who said, we've tried to put permissions into place for months. It is such a bear. We share with them our matrix. They go through that process. They go through our step-by-step approach. Again, we put a process to the process, and they implement permissions. The users who find the permission errors are excited. Yes, excited, because they make it into a game as to how quickly they can find the problem. They're not mad because they realize they forgot to record or recognize that task. I mean, to me, that's just a joy to take something that is so potentially painful, still have the pain, but get through it with a smile on your face. So a bad story, a good story.
Yeah, absolutely. How does NewView make it easy to do this type of a project? I know that it's a little bit involved, but what are the things that we bring to the table that make it easy for somebody who'd be listening to do this at their company?
So again, I think it's the organization, so I was referencing, putting that smile on the face. So helping the organization figure out who should be involved and how they should be involved, helping them align expectations so that there's realistic expectations of what this project's going to look like. Hold hands, because it can be frustrating. It's probably one of the least favorite components that you talk to any partner or any other organization, it kind of has a bad name.
Yep.
It's like a necessary evil. I don't get to see the impact of it on the bottom line of my spreadsheet. Oh, wait, I do. It increased my costs, right, to get it done. It doesn't make anything look nicer to my customers. It doesn't make my machines run smoother. So it's keeping everybody aligned with this is still important, even though it doesn't do these things. So a little bit of project management assistance, hand-holding, and again, I guess the way to describe it from a functional standpoint is making everything in that project something that's a bite-sized piece. It's an elephant in the room, and you can, what is it? How do you eat an elephant?
Eat an elephant one bite at a time. It's
right.
Definitely one of those type of projects.
Absolutely. And just keeping things going and moving and providing the support where needed.
Yeah, love it. If you're somebody who's listening to this today and you're interested in taking care of security and permissions in phase 2, please contact us. It's super easy. Just send a quick email to info@getyournewview.com. And we'll set up a quick 30-minute call to talk about how you can get phase 2 projects done like this at your company. Did your team ever really get good training to understand how to use your business software? Do you think you could use more features of your software if you just knew how? Are you frustrated with inefficiency that never seems to get better? Do you suspect that there just has to be a better way, but you don't know what that is? We believe every company can benefit from increased efficiency and higher utilization of their software, and that it's possible to have fun while learning exactly how to do that. The experts at NewView Strategies work with frustrated Business Central and NAV users who struggle to use their system and find the answers they need. We teach them to truly understand how the system can support their business processes to make immediate and lasting improvements. As a result, they get more done in less time, make better decisions, and even love their system. Please contact us at getyournewview.com to get started.